Hi, I discovered the cure to anxiety and depression. Literally, I fell upon it and it showed up in a very simple but unconventional way. It definitely goes against the norm. Even to make that statement is definitely unconventional and some would consider provocative. But hear me out. My name is Doug Dane, and you may be struggling with a case of mistaken identity. You may be mistaken about certain things that you believe. You may definitely be mistaken about how you approach your mental well-being. And so I want to try to clear some things up for you that I think that can help you. So listen, anxiety is simply just worrying about the future. And we were taught to do that. And generally when you're worrying about the future, usually it's negative. You're worried about something that's going to happen, something's going to go wrong. You're worried about how people are going to handle or react to a situation. You're worried about money, your health, whatever it is you're worried about. Generally it's negative. If we're thinking about the future in a positive way, that doesn't cause anxiety at all. That causes us to get actually quite fired up. So worrying about the future creates this anxiety, and then what we do is we suppress those negative thoughts and feelings with our emotions. We don't want to talk about it because we're worried what people are going to think. So we keep it inside, and that suppression with that negative energy causes our depression. And so that's how it kicks in, and then that's how you get stuck. And then you get stuck on these negative thoughts and feelings, and around and around. It's like a whirlpool, and around and down you go. If you look back on the past, generally we were taught to do that as well. And if we're looking on the past, we're looking on the past with negative emotions. So we're looking back with guilt, resentment. I mean, frustration is just simply your expectations not being met for something that happened in the past, literally a minute ago, an hour ago, a day ago, a year ago, whatever. And so if you're looking on the past in a negative way, if you're worried about the future in a negative way, these two blend together and they get stuck. And so you're combining these, and then you're using these two viewpoints as basically a prediction of how to solve your problems or how to go ahead in your life, in your career, in your business. So here's the cure that I discovered, and I became free of this emotional prison. So I think a lot of people are stuck in an emotional prison. I think it's a prison of their own making. It's a case of mistaken identity. That's how you got arrested into this emotional prison or captured. And the real villain is your upbringing, how you were treated when you were young, or the things you were taught to believe when you were young. And so what I did is I just simply changed my mind on my story. I looked at my story, I put it together in a very objective, adult-like view, and when I looked at it, it was very easy to change my perspective on the story. I understood why I was doing what I was doing, and why I was feeling the way I was feeling, and why I was making the mistakes that I was making. So the first step is you have to just change your view on the story. And so I had a very obviously negative story growing up, filled with abuse and violence and the resulting, shame and trauma and everything that comes with that junk. And so naturally, like you, like many people, I and others had a negative view on my story. And so the first thing I did is I just changed my view on the story. I looked for the good in the story, and I looked for understanding and empathy and compassion towards others that were hurting me. And so the first step I took was changing my view on the story, and that changed my feelings and my thoughts and feelings and my emotions and my anxiety, depression in a dramatic way. Very quickly, because I changed my view on the story, it changed the view on me. And so I suffered with this mistaken identity for a lot of years. I was mistaken about a lot of things. I was mistaken about who I was and who I wasn't. And I made a lot of mistakes because of this view. So I changed the view on my story, which changed the view on me. And then I learned to use what's called accurate thinking. I learned to think properly. And so thinking properly is using your mind properly. And your mind directs your brain and your nervous system. So if you're suffering with anxiety, depression, frustration, negative emotions, it's on you to change it. And you can change it with the proper use of your mind. So I discovered that my mind directs my brain and my nervous system. Well, I wasn't thinking very well, and I certainly didn't feel very well. So I got excited that I could actually change the way that I was thinking and feeling. And my mind is a machine. And so like any machine, I have to operate it properly. I got a message from somebody the other day. They said, the most important thing I have to work on to improve my life was my mind. I said, you don't have to work on your mind at all. You don't have to work on your mindset at all. Your mind is actually perfect. It's a machine. It operates perfectly. You have to learn how your mind works and operate it properly. So work on understanding how the mind works. You have to work on the mind, just work on understanding how it works. And so that is the idea of accurate thinking. And the proper use of your mind is you don't look backwards on the past with any negative emotions. You don't dredge up the past or dwell on the past. And you don't worry about the future because you can't control the future. You train your mind to operate in the present moment, one day at a time. You got to be focused on where you're going, but you don't have to worry about how you're going to get there. And so by practicing and correcting yourself in your thinking using accurate thinking. So inaccurate thinking is looking backwards on the past negatively. Inaccurate thinking is worrying about the future, something you can't control, and creating negative thoughts and emotions which drum up into this anxiety and depression. And so I asked myself, could it be that simple? I mean, I was hoping it could be that simple, but I made it difficult. I made it hard. I made it complicated. I just wasn't willing to agree to the idea that it could be that simple. So in my book, chapter 28, near the end, there's 30 chapters, chapter 28, it's called The Cure. And I open actually with a quotation here from his name's Roy T. Bennett. He was a Zimbabwe politician. I love this quote. Once you realize you deserve a bright future, letting go of your dark past is the best choice you will ever make. And so that's the first decision. You have to accept the idea that it could be simple, it could happen very quickly, and you don't have to make it all that complicated. So can you simply just let go of the past? Get my book where I take you through step by step using my story and my experience to show you how simple this could be. The cure does not lie in therapy and pills and masking up your negative feelings and emotions and depression. It definitely doesn't. The cure definitely does not lie in dredging up your past. The cure lies in your hands and in your mind. Thank you.